What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to this video. Today we're doing TryHackMe, and today's video is kind of non-technical. So we're still in the security engineer track in TryHackMe. So we reach this room, governance and regulation. So basically, as the title suggests, it is kind of non-technical room. We will not be typing any commands in the terminal. We will not be doing any CTF in this room. It is just to explain cybersecurity management concepts or information security management concepts. These concepts are very necessary for a security engineer to understand in order to, operate in an environment where you are part of an information security department. Additionally, the terms and the concepts we're going to outline in this video are very important even if you are preparing for a certification such as CISM. So there is certification CISM, Certified Information Security Manager. Now if you're preparing for this certification, or even if you're preparing for CISSP, Certified Information Security System Security Professional, these concepts are very important for these certifications because they are kind of in the management spectrum of the cybersecurity. They are non-technical. But what we're going to do, we are not going to bore you guys through reading these tasks. We're not going to do that. We're just going to explain briefly what does every concept mean, and we're going to take examples, and at the end we're going to take the challenge here, the view site. So it all starts with these terminologies. So basically here we have the information security governance. So before we talk about information security governance, it's essential we understand something called the data governance, which is not mentioned in this task. So data governance is how the organization handles data. Basically, if there's a data governance policy, it will actually take ownership of the data. So basically, by specifying a data retention policy, okay, for how long the data is retained in the organization, how the data is deleted or how data is wiped, what are the policies, and what are the security measures that are implemented to protect the data. This is called data governance. Now, if you move on to information security governance, here we actually mean how we govern in information security in the organization, how we implement information security. It is not that, I know it's kind of a heavy term to say governance of information security, but it's all about, handling information security or how information security is implemented in the organization. So basically, when we talk about information security governance, we talk about these components: strategy, policy and procedures, risk management, performance measurement, and compliance. So an information security department must develop an information security governance, or must actually handle or has policies to govern information security. So basically, to govern information security, what we do, we just create policies, procedures, we define a strategy, we assess the risk, and we monitor the performance. Information security regulation. So regulation, guys, regulation is a law or rule. Okay, it's a law or rule that is actually imposed by a regulation entity. For example, some of the examples can be the GDPR. GDPR is a regulation, so it is actually regulated by European Union, and you also have the HIPAA. HIPAA is a US based for healthcare industries. You have PCI DSS for governing the finance sector, and you have the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, which is also for finance sector. These are called regulations, which means organizations that fall under these regulations or under the domain that these regulations cover are actually obliged to comply with these regulations. So it's kind of mandatory to comply with these regulations. Otherwise, there are fines and penalties of non-compliance. So regulations in information security are something not to ignore or neglect, and should be part of any information security program. So that's what we said earlier, that here in the information security governance, to govern information security, there's this part, compliance. The compliance is where we make sure that the organization is compliant with information security regulations. Okay, the term used for legal and regulatory frameworks that govern the use and protection of information assets is called regulation. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act targets which domain for data protection? It's the healthcare. So to sum this up, guys, in an information security department, we create an information security program. Okay, so in the information security program, part of the program is being in compliance with these regulations. So these regulations, they are not just there to impose fines and make profit off on the back of organizations if they are not compliant. Of course not. These regulations are there to help organizations protect their assets. Assets could be digital or non-digital. Okay, now that's the broader definition of a compliance regulation. So it's there to, guys, instruct the companies, organizations, how to protect the digital assets or even non-digital assets, how to protect the information assets. Every asset that stores, processes, sends, or transmits information is considered as an asset that needs protection. So part of the information security program is to be in compliance with these regulations. Okay, so there is this now information security framework. Now, if we don't read these and we summarize the framework in one word, so basically a framework, guys, is a set of documents. So if we scroll down here, so this is the framework, set of documents. So these documents are concerned with handling the security and governance of an organization. So basically, an information security framework is or actually can be developed to aid you in creating the information security program. So as part of an information security program, you will need an information security framework that will outline how the information security is implemented. And basically it consists of these components. So the policies, mainly security policies, also the standards, the requirements. So a standard is a requirement, a document containing requirements for example, protecting your digital assets or non-digital assets. Guidelines, the guidelines are best practices and the how-to. It contains the best practice and the how-to to actually implement the policies and standards. The procedures, self-explanatory, is specific steps to perform a process or task. And lastly, we have the baselines. The baselines can be called as the minimum standards or the minimum criteria for a specific policy or a standard. So this is the framework. So frameworks come in various shapes and for various sectors. Some example of framework could be the governance and compliance framework. You also have the NIST framework, which we will talk about in a bit. So a framework, again, a framework is not a regulatory, it's not a regulation. It is a framework. It's not compulsory to be in compliance as a framework. It's not here to make you compliant. The framework is created to help you be in compliance with the information security regulations. An example of an information security framework is the governance, risk, and compliance. The governance, risk, and compliance, it is actually to handle governance, risk management, and compliance. So when you create a governance, risk, and compliance framework, you actually cover risk management, you cover compliance, and we cover governance. So again, in governance, we set the direction of the information security strategy, the policies, the procedures, the frameworks, the guidelines, the data. All of that is handled by governance. And then we perform risk management, and then we put components to be in compliance, and thus we create information security or a governance, risk, and compliance framework. So here, this is an example of GRC framework in a financial sector. So we have the governance component. So the governance component, we set the direction, we set the strategy that will govern all of the other components. So why are we creating a GRC framework in the first place? What's the objective? What's the goal? What are the policies that will be created by the governance, by the framework? All of that falls under the governance component. And then we have the risk management. Now, nearly risk management is part of every framework you will create. So whether you create a GRC framework yourself by following these steps, or whether you follow a specific framework from the industry, you will see risk management. So risk management nearly is part of every information security framework. And we have compliance. So any information security framework should actually help you be in compliance with information security regulations. So remember, guys, that the information security framework, a framework is different from a regulation. Okay, a framework is a set of policies, procedures, guidelines, standards that will help you be in compliance. Okay, mitigate risks and govern the information security department or the information security strategy. Okay, that is a framework. So you may not create a governance, risk, and compliance framework. You may follow other frameworks, such as, let's go here because I have all of them here. Let's see the frameworks we have. Okay, so an example of framework is, let's see, these are, yeah, we have this NIST cybersecurity framework. So NIST, guys, is a framework that any organization can follow, okay, to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, availability of their digital assets or non-digital assets. So basically, there is the application 853, which is security and privacy controls for information systems and organizations. So these kind of frameworks, or such a framework helps you to stay in compliance with the regulations, GDPR, PCI DSS, depending on your industry. Helps you protect your information assets. Of course, they have risk management components, incident response, and other security controls. So these frameworks should be part of your information security program, beside an overall information security governance that creates or sets the strategy. Privacy and data protection. So this is the GDPR. GDPR is a regulation. Okay, it is a regulation, not a framework. It is an information security or privacy and data protection regulation that applies on companies and organizations in the European Union. But who are these organizations or companies? If these organizations or companies handle, store, process, or transmit customer data or personal information of the customer, they must comply with GDPR by following its practices. And of course, as in the case with any information security regulation or data protection regulation, if you are not compliant with the regulation, you will have fines. Also, you have the payment card industry. This is for financial organizations, banks. What's the maximum fine? No, we didn't answer the previous ones. So the step that involves periodic evaluation of policies and making changes as per stakeholders' input is called, it is the review and update. So review and update is a step that you take, guys, while you create a broader information security framework. You have to regularly visit the framework, update its policies, the procedures as per the requirements. A set of specific steps for undertaking a particular task or project is called the procedure. What's the component in the GRC framework involved in identifying, assessing, and prioritizing risks to the organization? Is risk management. Is it important to monitor and measure the performance of a developed policy? Of course, yes. Privacy and data protection. Here is the question about the fines that the organization will incur if it is not in compliance. So what's the maximum fine for tier 1 users? It is 4%. So tier 1, tier 2 are tiers to impose fines on organizations that are non-compliant. So tier 1 handles the organizations that are in severe violations, meaning the organizations that don't actually are totally not in compliance with the framework or with the regulation. These organizations don't have policies or specific measures or controls to protect the privacy of the data. And we have tier 2. Tier 2 contains or is imposed on organizations that may have policies, but later on or later down the road may actually suffer from data breaches and fail to notify the customers. This is tier 2, which carries less fines than tier 1. It's 2% of the overall revenue. In terms of PCI DSS, what does CHD stand for? It's called cardholder data. NIST, we mentioned NIST a while ago. It is a framework. Okay, it's an information security framework that organizations can follow, okay, to protect the information assets. Now, what these frameworks handle actually What these frameworks handle differ from a framework to a framework. Not all frameworks handle the same category, and not all frameworks can be implemented or followed by all organizations. So depending on your organization industry, the objectives and the goals. For example, NIST handles a wide array of information assets and scenarios. It covers, for example, protection controls against intentional attacks, cyber attacks, unintentional errors, human errors, natural disasters, infrastructure failures, foreign intelligence activity, and privacy concerns. Okay, per NIST 853, in which control category does the media protection lie? It is the physical, as you can see they are here. You can also visit the main documentation for NIST to take a look at all the requirements. So it is a document of 492 pages. It's a reference for organizations. So media protection, it is under the physical controls. The incident response, it's under the administrative controls. And lastly, which phase compliance best practices results in correlating identified assets and permissions? It's the map. So in map, we map the identified assets of the organization. Every organization has different assets. So we map the assets. It could be endpoints, computer systems, data warehouses. So we map these assets. We map also the permissions, who have got access to these assets. So we map them with the best practices or the security controls. We call this the map phase. And lastly, information security management and compliance. Additional frameworks, they are the SOC2 framework. It's not the Security Operations Center, it is Service Organization Control. It is similar to NIST. And also you have the ISO standard that can be followed, okay, to actually plan, create, and develop an information security management system, ISMS. So as you can see, guys, there are different frameworks and standards to follow when you are actually implementing information security program and a governance program. So there are some questions here to answer. Let's see. Which ISO component involves selecting and implementing controls to reduce the identified risks to an acceptable level? Its risk treatment. As you can see, risk management is nearly part of every framework. In SOC2 generic controls, which control shows that the system remains available, its availability? So all of these, remember guys, all of these frameworks, their main objective is to protect the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the information assets. Now, which framework you choose, it depends on the business objectives, the goals, the scenario, the industry. All of these factors should be taken into consideration when selecting an information security framework or a standard to follow. So when you follow these frameworks, guys, you follow them when you are creating an information security program. Okay, so you follow these standards to create security policies, procedures, to be in compliance and to govern your data. And lastly, we have the conclusion. Let's click on the view site and take this fun challenge. Skip the guided tour. I'm gonna take you guys on this tour. So basically, these bubbles represent the vulnerabilities. So when I hover over, as you can see here, you see for every color we have the classification of the vulnerability. For example, the red color refers to phishing emails. The blue color refers to, or the light blue color refers to man-in-the-middle attacks. The green color refers to data leakage, so on and so forth. We have the rockets here. The rockets are the controls. We have to aim the rockets to the appropriate vulnerability using the harpoon here. For example, we have the secure connections where we should aim, or where we should apply this rocket. So phishing emails, we have man-in-the-middle. Actually, it is implemented on man-in-the-middle attacks, because secure connections make the communication or the packets encrypted, which means even if the attackers manage to get access or to sniff the data, they will not be able to see through the contents because it is encrypted. But unfortunately, we have to get past this wall here, phishing emails. So first we have to crack the phishing emails, or to patch the vulnerability of phishing emails by using user awareness rocket. So user awareness is part of any information security program. It's actually part of all of the information security frameworks, regardless of the framework you choose. So you will implement user awareness if you are following one of these frameworks. So let's choose user awareness and aim at the phishing emails. Okay, so we got this. Now I have a question. Which of the following is a valid NIST publication dealing with security and privacy controls for information systems and organizations? We mentioned that it is NIST 853. Okay, now we can aim. Oh, we're out of time. Yeah, because I'm explaining everything in the task. There's not going to be enough time. So skip tour. Let's aim fast. Oops. Oh, okay. NIST. Okay, next we have man-in-the-middle attack. We're going to take the secure connections and aim. Okay, and we have unpatched software, so we're going to use patch management. Which of the following frameworks primarily assists in information security management and compliance? SOC2. GDPR, it's for data leakage, so we're going to aim at data leakage. To prevent data leakage, we use GDPR. And lastly, service organization control, it's for unregulated, non-compliant. Aim that, and we have this flag. So that was it, guys. If you want more information about, or more details about cybersecurity management concepts, you can visit my notes through channel membership. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and definitely I'm gonna see you later to carry on the rest of the rooms.